What's up? I'm so excited. Right now I'm actually outside of my new deck, which I'm so excited about. And I thought it would be super interesting to do a little bit of an update video on how it has been living in a tiny house for pretty much 3 years now, which is quite some time. Who would have thought that this was going to be such a long project? But yeah, I thought it was going to be super interesting to give you a little bit of an update on how it's like to live in a tiny house in Hawaii, which is definitely a huge benefit that it's here. But yeah, there's a lot of pros, but there's also some significant cons that you might want to think about if you are considering building your own tiny house, or you're thinking about buying one or moving into one. So I thought I'd give you a little rundown on what it's like. It's been quite some time, and over the years obviously there's things that I've learned and that I've realized that I would do differently if I would build again, or if I would start over. What are the things that I think are super important? So I'm going to share with you my top tips on and basically the pros and cons on living in a tiny house. And I hope these will be helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, just write them in the comments and I'm more than happy to answer them. I've been super excited to make more videos. It's been such a creative joy for me to do. This is a little bit of a different sit down video, which I usually don't do. I usually take you along, go somewhere cool, do like a hike or do something fun, and this is just like sitting in my backyard. So it's not like crazy entertaining, but there will be a lot of knowledge which I hope you can take from this. So number one, what is the best thing about living in a tiny house? The best thing about living in a tiny house is that you own it, and that is huge. Everything, when we built the tiny house, everything that's in here is ours. So it's not like, oh my gosh, is it worth it for me to paint the walls? Is it worth it for me to update the kitchen? Is it worth it for me to update this? Is it worth it for me to put in that? Because everything that the tiny house has is ours, and that makes a huge difference in making a decision to upgrade things or making a decision on what kind of quality to invest into it. So we have put a lot more money into this house because we realized, okay, we would like to update this, we would like to update the shower, we'd like to update this deck that I'm on right now. So basically there's a lot of things, especially when building the tiny house and making a progress and thinking about what kind of materials do you want to use. For example, the outside from our house has the standing seam, which is a really expensive kind of, the roosters are super loud. It's a really expensive kind of material, but it really has been the biggest blessing for our house, because if we would have painted it, would have been probably already really bad, and now we can just pressure wash it and it looks really modern. So that's a huge difference. Then all the appliances that we put in, they're still really good shape because they've run from really good companies that have been doing really high quality stuff, and that for the TV show helped a lot, because I was reaching out to a couple of brands and they were sponsoring us, which was really cool. And that way we have really high quality appliances, which are still super nice. That's something, you take care of your things way better. Not to say that if you rent that you're gonna be a prick and just like don't use things really nicely, but if you know it's your own, you really take it with care and you really try to maintain it as good as possible, because you know it's just, you want to keep the value. Let's talk about a con. And obviously a con is that you own it, you need to constantly upgrade, you need to constantly maintain it, because if it's to shit, if something, the AC just broke, so if the AC breaks, you pay. If your sink doesn't work, you pay. If your laundry breaks, you pay. It's really about a huge cost driver too that people don't think about when it's your own. Everything, you can't just call your landlord and be like, hey, the water heater isn't working, or like, hey, this isn't going well, can you fix this? It's like on you. So this is a con that also kind of is a pro, but is also a con, that you really have to maintain the house to the standing of what you would like it to be, if that makes sense. One of the biggest pros I've realized that when it's yours, you feel like it's your home. Like everything I've picked, everything, the dishes or like appliances and things that are in the house, I really chose with care, and I was like, yeah, this feels like home because it's mine. When you rent, every time I rented places, I didn't feel like it was mine, it was different, and now that everything is mine, it feels so much more like a home, and that's a huge pro for me. Let's talk about something that I hear all the time, which drives me nuts, because everyone just says, oh my gosh, I'm sure because your house is so small, it's so easy with the cleaning, like it takes probably 10 minutes to clean. Yes, it takes a shorter time than cleaning a 5-bedroom house, but you have to clean every single day, no questions asked. Otherwise, your house is going to be literally, there's no more house left. If you leave stuff on the floor, oh, there's a lot of wind. Hope you can hear me. If you leave stuff on the floor, the house is absolutely full. If you leave stuff anywhere, it's basically you can't even walk because you have such little flooring that if there's stuff all over, you're not able to walk. So yes, you do clean shorter times, but you clean more consistently. I can't let myself go. If I do that, I literally have no house. So that's like a pro, and it's pretty much a con at the same time. The next thing to know is space. Like, I'm very minimalistic. I don't use a lot of stuff. I don't have a lot of knickknacks, and I keep it very simple, which is good. But for people who have a lot of stuff, I don't think it would work because you need to really have very little stuff in order to live in a small space. You can't have a lot of clothes. You can't have all these knickknacks and Christmas supplies and all these decorations laying around. Like, you have to be more specific on what you want to keep on a regular basis. So I do see a lot of people who own tiny houses like rent storage units. We do have a storage unit outside, which helps a lot. Like suitcases, where do you put your suitcase? Like, these are little things that you don't think about when you rent or if you have an actual big house, but that's a huge problem in a sense when you live in a tiny house. Let's talk about another pro. One of the biggest pros that I think we built in our tiny house is our outdoor shower. I am obsessed with this shower. It's literally my everything. I love it. It's like the best part about this house. I love taking showers outside, like no matter if it's cold, if it's raining, like I absolutely love it. And I also upgraded this bathtub, and it's just one of my favorite pieces at the house, being able to just shower outside. But some people who don't like it, some people might not be wanting to live this like more outdoorsy lifestyle, but that could be a con, because if you have to put your shower into your house, it's going to significantly reduce the size of your house. If you think about, our house is actually really big for a tiny house because we have 11-foot ceilings, which makes it really open, and we actually got a custom trailer, meaning it's like an extra foot longer, wider and longer than a usual tiny house would be. So that makes it even more smaller if you are getting a normal tiny house size, or what most people build as tiny houses. So that's the thing to consider. If you don't like outdoor showers, if you live in a cold area, that might be a problem. But that's been very easy here to maintain in Hawaii. Talking about space, we actually just got this new deck, which I can show in a little bit, which is really nice because it's really going to extend our living situation, because we're going to be able to maybe have some friends out here and just do yoga, or do my morning routine here and do some exercising, which is really hard in a tiny house because there's just not enough space to do that. So that's a huge bonus if you have outdoor space where you can just extend your outdoor living area by putting a lanai, or just making lanai is a Hawaiian name for deck, putting a deck in and just having more space that way. That will help you significantly feel less clustered. Now I'm going to talk two huge disadvantages. The first one is the toilet situation. We have an Incinelate, which is literally like a $5,000 toilet, which basically incinerates your waste, which is crazy. It's not ideal. I don't like this thing at all. I actually I don't like it at all, but it's the best version out there. I could not do compost toilet. It's not what I'm into. I don't like the Incinelate either, but it's definitely a better version of a composting toilet, but it's just not nice. Like, that's the one thing, if we're ever getting a real house, if we're ever wanting to move in a different place, I am looking forward to have a really normal toilet, because the situation is not ideal. This is a huge part to consider and a huge price point that a lot of people don't think about. And that brings me to the next biggest con, is because I get messages all the time saying like, how were you able to build this? Like, how much money does it cost? Like, the reality of things is, as much as it attracts a lot of people who want to size down and who want to live more minimalistic lifestyle and who don't want to spend that much money, building a tiny house is extremely expensive. Oh, it's really windy. Wind. Also, I'm excited to be able to film outside because just more space and like a different scenery, so that's good. But yeah, building a tiny house is incredibly expensive, especially in Hawaii. So if you are in a different state where materials are not as expensive, that's different. But Hawaii, everything needs to be imported, so materials are freaking expensive. And our house is probably over $100,000, and that's a lot of money, and it's really hard to get loans. You need to have a lot of savings or cash in order to do that. Building a house is really expensive, especially if you want to build one where you long-term want to live. If it's just like a getaway place and you can keep it very minimalistic and you're just gonna go there every so often, that's a different kind of tiny house than living full-time in. So another thing that I realized, which I'm super grateful for, that we didn't do that, because when we were filming the TV show for HGTV where we're filmed, the entire process, which was awesome because now we have this really high documentation on how we built the house. One thing I realized is that they were really looking forward for us to be like, hey, you need to do a desk that flips around, or you need to do the bed that goes up and you can store underneath, and smart cabinets and this and store and folding and all this stuff. And I have to say, I'm so grateful that we did for the TV show a folding desk, just to have something that's smart in a sense, that way what they wanted. But for us, the biggest goal and the best thing happened to us that we don't have flip around. Like when I hear people like, oh yeah, you can just do the couch, make it as a bed, and then this on the daily basis is so annoying. This is so annoying, and I'm like so glad that I don't have to flip my desk to a kitchen or have my couch as a bed. And like, I don't know, I'm not a fan of it, because you have to think about everyday life. When you wake up, either you go to work or I work from home, so like I don't want to be flipping around my entire house so I can have, you know, a certain kitchen, or if I can use my bed or I can use a couch. So that's one of the biggest things that I've learned, is I would highly recommend not going for the smart feature of pulling up your bed and then your space underneath and you sit like this underneath. It's fun again if you have like a weekend getaway place, but this is not for daily living. You really got to figure out, if you want to build your tiny house, what is the ideal thing every single day that I can sit there and not feel like I'm like, oh, I have to like be super small to make sure it works, or I have to like lift my bed with a rope system, and it's just a lot of stuff to do every single day. So I would really stay away from the let's make this feature 3 versions of a bed, of a couch, of I don't know. Like I just don't think that is very practical. It's fun and it's cool to show your friends like, here, look at this desk, it folds up and down, like cool. But like, how often do you want to like flip it up, flip it down? Like, realistically, that's just not something that you want to do. It doesn't seem that crazy, but like, oh yeah, you just need to flip it up, what a big deal. But it does become a big deal, because if you have your computer on it, you have all your stuff on it, and now you have to flip it down to put the bed in, where are you going to put your computer? You have to like move it all around. It just becomes a whole mess. So you want to make it as simple as possible for you. You want to make it as simple as possible for the people who are living in it. So that's something I would highly recommend. Stay away from crazy smart features that go up and down and turn around, switch and whatever. So I don't think it's very practical. Yeah, other than that, I have to say, like, living in a tiny house, it's been obviously financially such a good situation, because we barely have any rent. We have to pay the land, which is quite a bit, but it's not too bad. And if you think about it, that's such a good financial decision, because we live in a really nice place. We have all the stuff is ours. Everything we upgrade is ours. Everything we break is obviously also ours. But at the end of the day, when I see most people in Hawaii, they're like, for like a simple studio, pay around $2,000. So if you think about just for studio, it's not even like multiple bedrooms, you will pay a lot of money. Like, you will pay a lot of money every single month. And you might have to have roommates, which makes this so amazing. Also, that we're really lucky with the place, because we basically have no neighbors, so which is so rare, especially on the island that I'm on, which is so packed, so crowded. That has been a huge thing. It's quiet, no one's here. It's just like, I totally love it. I love it. And I'm quick in town. It's not like I'm so far off that it's like hours and hours to get there, but it's just something that you don't get that much, that you have a quiet space, you're so immersed in nature. And now that we got this deck, which I'm so excited for, I can't wait to show the progress on this, because we just built this in. If you watch my last video, you can see how we built it. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please just write a comment, and I'm more than happy to answer them. I hope this gives you some insight on the pros and cons of living in a tiny house, and I see you in my next video.